Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby. Alright, of course, I'm representing Team Kings of Games. And today, you guys, I got for you the top 10 best decks of the format. Now, you guys know how I do it. I never do top 5s. I just feel like the top 5 is, you can guess it. Honestly. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading that. That just threw me off. Like, who says that? Like, the spam messages I get on Facebook Messenger are so entertaining. Alright, so this is going to be the top 10 best decks of the format, you guys. Now, I try my hardest to make sure that these are non-biased, not preferential, and also not based off, what I like or what I love. For me, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about meta really fast before we do this. For me, it's very simple what makes a deck viable as a meta contender. Most effective or efficient tactic available. META. Meta doesn't always have to be the most expensive, doesn't always have to be the best. A lot of times people forget the most impactful and influential factor that determines the viability of a deck being meta relevant or not, basically, is these two things: representation and results. Those two things, it almost like everything else is in limbo. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how cool or awesome the deck is. It doesn't matter how good the deck is. It doesn't. A deck can be the greatest deck, of all time and still not be meta. Why? Because if it does not have 10-year tops, if it doesn't top multiple events, and it's not highly represented, it's not considered to be meta viable. Which is oftentimes, it's like a misconception that people think because a deck's good, it's meta. There's plenty of decks that are not meta that are good. And I say that because there are so many, and I mean so many shout outs and honorable mentions that could be made. I could go down the list and it'd be a 30-45 minute video. So sorry to anyone that gets their butt hurt or gets in their feelings because your deck didn't make it to the top 10. But remember, representation and results are what I use to determine what are the top 10 best decks. And then I factor in the strengths and the weaknesses of the deck, and also in comparison to the other decks on the list. So obviously, for example, number 1 is going to have strengths that every other of the 9 just don't have, and its weaknesses are so few and far between that most of those decks don't have it. And some decks are just hard counters to the other, which kind of can put them higher on the list, but at the same time might keep them below on the list just because that one deck doesn't deter or take away from how great that deck is. Like, for example, like a deck like Cyber Dragon, just like being able to contact fuse an entire Orcust board. Just because Cyber Dragon can do that does not make Cyber Dragon better than Orcust. Does that make sense? I really hope you, because like I have reasonings for everything I say, and there's always a logic and a method to the madness. So we're going to go ahead and hop into these top 10 best decks of the format. So coming in at number 10, we have Nekroz. Yes, I wish Herald was in this, but Herald of Perfection is a very underrepresented deck. It has very few people repping it, and I don't really know anyone besides myself, like legitimately, that has got any tops at regionals or YCSs or ARGs with Herald. So it's just very underrepresented. I know it hurts my ball sack to not even be able to say Herald's in the top 10. It sucks, but like I said, it's not biased. So number 10, we have Nekroz. Now the reason why Nekroz is even in the top 10, because like I said, there's a billion decks. People, whenever I do top 10s, people always get sad because they want their deck to be in there. But again, the reason why Nekroz made it, while so many other decks could have made it, is the ceiling of the deck in this particular format. Nekroz is one of those decks that is really good going first, and it's fairly good and fairly capable going second. It has the ability to break boards and also to make boards. It has really solid spot removal. It has really good protection. It's able to floodgate out some of the best decks in the format, not just with Unicorn, but with cards like Vanity's Ruler. And if you're a fan of Nekroz or Sophia, that's a very underestimated hand trap that cannot be stopped by Dark Ruler no more. So I feel like if you want to make your Nekroz even more competitive, you should consider main decking a copy of Sophia, which is something I do, to counter Dark Ruler no more so that your opponent can Dark Ruler you and you can still floodgate them out of special summoning from the extra deck during that main phase. Because Nekroz have this very vast and very, I guess you could say, expansive and versatile toolbox. A lot of decks in the top 10 have expansive and versatile toolboxes like Strikers and other decks like that, where they have access to this pool of resources that I have my paper because I wrote down notes for this. They have access to this pool of resources that basically give you the potential to do A, B, C, D, and E, and sometimes even F and G. That's how expansive the toolboxes of Nekroz. Like I said, they have solid spot removal. They have really good protection. They can make indestructible boards that can be targeted or destroyed with cards like Trish and Gungnir, and Valkyrius just being able to stop battle phases. Unicorn is still a really powerful card. Bryonic is insane going second. Clausulus is a really strong card. Nekroz of Gungnir is really good against control decks. So where your contingency plan falls in the line of when you're playing a deck that's not a combo deck, that's not relying on special summoning or the extra deck, and it's one of those back row decks, Nekroz of Gungnir is a really good card for those particular matchups. Nekroz of Gungnir, and also a card that's highly slept on is Decisive Armor. Decisive Armor should be considered to be main decked in today's format, because while those Nekroz monsters might not be good in certain matchups, there are certain matchups where those will be the only Nekroz that are good in that matchup. Like when you play Guru Control, how are you going to sit on Unicorn and think it's going to do something? You need cards like Gungnir, and especially Decisive Armor in the Guru matchup. The fact that he targets any set card, destroys it, and then banishes it, gets it out of there. That's what I mean, how expansive Nekroz toolbox is. They have a wide variety, a plethora of effects, and they have so many different ritual monsters that have amazing effects on field and amazing effects in hand. They have hand traps. Trishula is still an insane card. Just banishing cards from your grave, your hand, and your field, non-targeting removal, protecting a Trish with the trick. The fact that literally this card called Dance Princess of the Nekroz says you cannot respond to your ritual spells, and you can just chain block with Trishula and Shurit when you're going second, so that you're breaking boards and your opponent can't respond to Trishula's effect because Shurit's going off, and they can't respond to the ritual spell because of Dance Princess. I can go on and on, but there's a really good reason why Nekroz made number 10, and they do have representation. They have got multiple tops. Ever since Shurit came back at 1, it's been like 4 months that Nekroz have been on fire. And I mean on fire, like legit. Oh my gosh. Welcome to Texas, you guys, where you get mosquitoes coming into your house when all your doors are open. I mean, when all your doors are closed. So yeah, like I said, Nekroz have just been on fire for these past 4 months. Like, literally ever since Shurit came back. And it made a difference. It wasn't that the deck wasn't playable when Shurit was gone, but Shurit makes a huge difference. And with it being at 2, that makes even more of a difference. And we can't knock and neglect the fact that some people elect to play Zabort Turbo, which is an insane card. It's practically an FTK when it resolves against certain decks. And you've got cards like the Incantations themselves, which are really, really powerful. There's a level of redundancies that Nekroz have. It's like stupid in a like a bad but good way. Like, where they can really do some unfair things like going +9, +10, you know, legitimately having 5 cards on field and 9 cards in hand when you started off with 5 cards. That's a +9. That's something that Fire Fist and Spirals and Herald of Perfection do. That's really insane when you can get that much advantage and do it consistently. It's a very consistent deck. So, Nekroz, hands down, they took top 10. You guys can argue all day, but facts are facts and opinions are opinions. There's 2 different things. So now coming in at number 9, we have Dinosaurs. Now, I do hate this deck for taking my Dinlong away from me. Trust me, I haven't let go of that. You're supposed to forgive, so you can be forgiven, but I just can't forgive Dinosaurs. But when I say Dinos, I mean any and all Dino variants. So that means the True King variant, that means the Shadal variant, that means the Dinosaur Orcust variant, that means 60 card Lightsworn Dinosaurs, anything abusing dinos. I don't consider the IB Turbo, you know, Dragon Link deck to be a dinosaur deck, but anything that's playing dinos correctly using the actual dinosaur cards has a really high ceiling. And I mean, we know that dinos are good, but let's just explain why they're even in the top 10. They have a really high ceiling going first or second in this format. Again, every deck that you're going to see on this list is not just a hardcore going first deck. All of these decks are just as good, sometimes better going second, and sometimes their strengths lie more in going first. But the fact is they're versatile. They have a sword and shield, like sometimes a double-edged sword, and they're very capable of doing both, so they don't have to just win the die roll to win. All of these decks on this list are insane at what they're good at doing. They're insane at that. Some decks are good, but these decks are great at what they do. I mean, Dinosaurs, literally, like I said, they're good going first or going second. You can set up cards like Overtext Quadless, Conductor, True King's All Calamities, Evilzar Doka, Evilzar Lagia. They put up boards that can contend with any deck. You're playing a stun deck, Lagia, Overtext. You're playing a combo decks, Conductor, Doka, you know, Calamities, you name it. It's like they have like this jack of all trades kind of thing going where the boards they make are good against every deck. There is no bad matchup. There is no, oh, I can't make a good board because I'm playing Striker. Hello, Lagia and Overtext. It might not be 17,000 negates, but it's the fact that they can put up boards that can shut down any deck in the format. And Conductor is one of the best boss monsters that's ever been printed to this day. He's probably like the top 5 best boss monsters ever printed in existence. This card just absolutely does not give a crap about anything. With Miscellaneous Swords being at 3 and being able to protect him, preemptively using your Miscellaneous Swords, that turn, if they don't negate it, your Conductor can flip an entire Pendulum board face out and just run them over. You catch people off guard, and if you don't play a player that's smart enough or has a high enough skill, and they don't negate that Miscellaneous Swords, they just died. They just lost. Like, it's really that good. Devil Evolution Pill's an insane card. This deck has nuclear bombs in its arsenal. Like, it has an insane top deck game. It's so annoying when they top deck Conductor or Pill or Fossil Dig or Overraptor. Their cards are all at 3 and everything's at full power. It's so explosive. Dinosaurs are definitely not like, they're not a joke. They're a force to be reckoned with. And that's just pure dinos. Like, that's, you know, True Kings put up like Calamities and hand loop you. The Shadal dinos going second are really good. The Orcust dinos, I mean, dude. Like, now Dinosaur Orcust could put up boards like Overtex and Logia, and, you know, like, the Orcust, if you could go full combo and you really can go that far, like, you could put up like 3 negates. That's insane, you know? So continuing in number 8. Number 8, I put pretty much a variety of decks that all are really trying to do the same thing. They're more Floodgate-ish, but they're control decks, and they all have a very similar game plan. That's why I didn't want to, because honestly, I'll tell you right now, number 8, I put Dracos, Guru slash Subterra Control, Altergeist, and Paleozoic. I don't ever sleep on Paleozoic, bro. Paleozoic is just as good as all those decks, sometimes better. People really need to stop sleeping on Paleozoics and stop bashing them, because that deck has never been touched in the ban list, and there was points in the time. I remember a format when Grass Looks Greener was at 3, people were crying like big babies saying Totally Awesome just needs to be banned. That card just needs to go. The Paleos just need to be errata. Like, the Frogs just need to go. Swap Frog needs to be, like, dude, like, we can't forget the format when Paleozoic literally dominated, won multiple YCSs, not topped, won them. The deck, nothing's happened. Nothing's changed to make the deck weaker or stronger. Judgment's at 3. Strike is at 3. You've got Warning. I mean, dude, like, there's so many cards you could play in this deck. So Paleo is in there. But the reason why I put those all in number 8, because technically speaking, I would have had to waste slots and been like, Draco's number 8, 7 is Subterra, and then like 6 is Altergeist. I don't think really that those decks, that many of those, you know, set 5 pass decks deserve all those slots in the top 10, because realistically, they all have the same strengths and the same weaknesses. They are back row reliant decks. They rely on their traps more than they rely on their monsters, and that's a really huge weakness in today's format because of the time rule. So sometimes it's harder for them to get the engine rolling. I'd say of all the 4, Draco is by far the most consistent and probably the most aggressive what it's able to do, because it could get its engine rolling right now, today. Like, not tomorrow, today. It can do it right now. Guru kind of, it requires a bit of a setup. I definitely say Altergeist, of all of the decks, they can cascade and snowball into advantage just like Paleozoics can, but there's a point in the duel that you have to get to first. So you have to survive until you get to the point where you're looping Hextias and you're resolving that same multi-faker off of Manifestation and bouncing it with your Soliquidus and just constantly getting that advantage. That's that snowballing train wreck that you don't want it to get to that point. But these decks can be really slow. Now, Draco's the fastest of all of them. So Draco, by far, if I wanted to put it in number 7, it would deserve a slot higher than him, because Draco also has the highest ceiling against all these decks. Draco has a higher ceiling against Guru Control, against Altergeist, and against Paleo than Paleo, Altergeist, and Guru have against it. It's true Draco. It's probably the best tier 2 stun-ish slash control deck. You know, True Draco can play some of the best floodgates, and in fact, it can play all the floodgates and it won't hinder him. It can main summon limit, it can main There Can Only Be One, Rivalry, and Gozen. All of them, Skill Drain and the Triple Erupt. That's a floodgate that none of these other decks can play, is the Skill Drain and the Triple Erupt. And it can comfortably play Anti-Spell, Imperial Order, and whenever it wants to, it can turn these floodgates off. So there's a reason why Draco, I consider out of all of them, as much as I love Paleos, I can't be biased. Facts are facts, and opinions are opinions. Draco's the best of all of them. It really is. It's a great deck. With its cards being limited, Return being at 1, Knuckles being at 1, there being 0 Masterpiece, it's still an insane deck. In fact, it's almost like it started doing better when it lost Masterpiece. I don't know what it is. It's such a good deck. Guru Control, I won't take away from the elements of control that it has. You know, it can be a very slow deck. It's not as good going second as Draco is. It's not as good going second as Altergeist are. Even Paleos are better going second oftentimes. Guru does have strengths that those other decks don't have as well. Like I said, all these decks have different strengths, different weaknesses, but one very common weakness that all these decks have, and they're back row reliant. So you've got Twin Twisters, Cyclones, Reboots, Evenly Matched, Pankratops, Dinko Sekkas. Need I continue? There's a lot of cards that can shut back row deck down, especially Paleos, Altergeist, and Subterra. You can blow them out with a card like Hey True Nade. You know, you have to activate your floodgates right now. So these decks, while they're powerful, they do have the same exact weakness. All the back row hate that most people side deck because of decks like this. People are so scared of the promos. It's ridiculous how people are so scared they're literally pissing their pants and quitting combo and going to little set 5 pass boring decks that automatically lose in time. Like, that's another weakness these decks have. They suck in time. They don't have a win condition. Like, Dracos can play like emergency provisions. Like, Altergeist cannot put Cowboy up. They can't inflict damage. Guru can't make a Cowboy. Paleo, it just, you know, these decks are slow starting off. But Draco, like I said, is the faster. And we can't deny how powerful Paleozoic is. It's tried and true. Of all these decks, Paleo's been around the longest. It's older than Draco. It's older than Subterrors, if I'm not mistaken. I believe so. I believe it's also older than Altergeist. And of all of them, it has the most 10-year tops. It has been tried and true the most. It has the most success in the long run. Not right now, not today, not yesterday. In the long run, as long as it's been around, it has more tops. It has proven itself more, and it's an effective tactic. It's a really strong meta contender. You may think the deck sucks, but if you think it sucks, you probably never even played it. So I feel like if you don't know what you're talking about, you don't have room to speak. So continuing with number 7. In number 7, I put these 3 decks. They're all really powerful going second decks, and their game plan might be a little different, but these decks are well capable going second decks. We have Magical Musketeers, Cyber Dragons, and Infernoids in number 7. Yes, these did get a slot higher. They got a slot higher than Nekroz, higher than Dinos, and higher than all those set 5 pass floodgate decks. You know, these decks are really good at what they do, and they also just, like, literally just doo-doo over these other decks. Like, they have that ceiling. They're very capable, and because these decks prefer to go second, they don't really care about a lot of the stuff that's out. They don't. Like, these decks are really difficult to hand trap. It's really hard to shut them down. They have unorthodox and very fluent playstyles. The mechanic that they abuse is all different. Like, how Infernoids play, their summoning mechanic is intricate and interesting as well. Cyber Dragon's mechanic is very powerful. The contact fusion mechanic, it's really, really strong. Just saying, oh, you can't be targeted, you can't be destroyed. Contact fusion, you're gone. Dingirsu, you're gone, you're dead. LTKs out of nowhere. Even Magical Musketeers, the way they play, how they abuse columns, and the fact that your opponent can give you advantage that you don't have to work for because you can summon your muskets in the same column as their cards, and they have to, if they want to activate it, they have to give you advantage, and that's just how it works. I mean, these decks are really, really strong. Infernoids are insane. You guys cannot underestimate Infernoids. They're like, and check out like some of the top profiles from Musketeers and Cyber Dragons and Infernoids. You guys will see that these decks are tried and true and capable. Of all of them, obviously Cyber Dragon is the oldest. It is the GOAT. It is the OG. I mean, Cyber Dragon is like, he's that dude, you know? He started off as a monster with no deck, and he was so good, Konami gave him a deck. They gave Cyber Dragon a deck and made a bunch of mini-me's for him, and then said, you guys are all me. Core, you are me. Hers, you or me. All of them. So yeah, these decks are really powerful, and they have a really good game plan for going first. These are decks that, you know, some going second decks have that weakness where your opponent be like, oh, I make you go first and I win. You can make these decks go first. Infernoids, Void Feast, put up 3 negates. Musketeers, Desperado, Cross Domination, Dancing Needle, and Last Stand are all cards. Tides of the Brethren, Cyber Dragons, Infinity, Overflow, Orcust combo. You get what I'm saying? And all of these decks can incorporate Orcust, as well as, you know, Dinosaurs. They can incorporate Orcust. I don't recommend Orcust Nekroz, but that's in the realm of possibility. But the fact is, all of these 3 going second decks really could incorporate Orcust just to raise their ceiling even higher. So they definitely take the slot in number 7, and they have the representation to back it up. Next up in number 6, I chose any Guard Dragon deck. Honestly, I couldn't say Dragon Link's better than Crusadia Guard Dragon, or that it's better than this Guard Dragon. Anything abusing Guard Dragons are virtually doing the same exact thing, right? They might have a different, they might use different cards, but their ending boards all naturally look at this. They look the same. Dawn Dragster, Borreload Savage Dragon, Heretic Seal, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, you know, stuff like that. They're just putting up multiple negations, and they're really good with playing through hand traps. These decks, they're not as powerful, I would say, going second, but their strength lies in going first, and they are capable of going second because they do have that embodiment of power. They have what's known as critical mass. They have a ton of extenders at their disposal, so being able to vomit multiple monsters out on the field is a really huge strength, and as long as you have access to your extra deck, you can abuse cards like the Nightmares and the Orcust cards to help to pick boards apart, you know, and all of these decks can all incorporate Orcust, and in fact, nearly every Guard Dragon that you see in today's format and this day and age change because of the promos, they're all playing Orcust inside of them. So their ceiling is even higher going second than it naturally would be, because Din Girsu and Long Girsu are some really powerful cards, and the fact that you make a Nightmare first and then go into the combo, it's insane. So yeah, these decks definitely deserve it. I don't want to talk too much about Guard Dragons for somebody that gets like a crybaby and starts whining about it. So now we're going to the top 5. Now for number 5, I picked Hand Traps the deck featuring a couple Salamangreat cards. I'm talking about Salads. Now this deck, one of its biggest strengths that everyone has ever exploited is that the engine is so compact and so small. Most of the time, I just look at it like, you probably just didn't know what else to throw in there, so you just threw a bunch of Hand Traps because you were like, well, I got all my Salamangreat cards and I'm only at like 18 cards. I got 22 slots. 22 Hand Traps? 3 Desires and 19 Hand Traps? 3 Desires, 3 Signet Miners, 3 Called by the Graves, and the rest Hand Traps? Okay. Hand Traps the deck featuring Salamangreats. I mean, this deck, for me personally, I feel it's very boring. It's very linear. It's very simplistic. It's very easy. But people love linear. People love simplistic. They love easy. And they love cheap. The deck's cheap. It's easy. It's simple. It's linear. It does the same thing over and over. It gets really boring for me because there's no variety. And really, the board, while it's not oppressive, it's like everybody's going to argue and say what I'm already getting ready to say anyways. It's the fact that the deck can do that over and over and over and over and over again. What the strength, where the deck is weakened, it basically overcompensates for that in a very, very powerful recursion. It has really good recursion. Its recovery is insane. But I will say its problem is keeping and maintaining that Sunlight Wolf. That's where it gets all the advantage, and how its back rows become more live and you're able to use them and get more advantage. When you take away that Sunlight Wolf and you start picking that board apart, it's really easy to OTK this deck once Sunlight Wolf has been gotten rid of. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's got a bunch of Hand Traps, and that's pretty much the only way that it can ever be viable. I've never seen a Salamangreat deck top without Hand Traps. It almost makes me feel like the deck isn't good without Hand Traps. That's what it makes me personally feel like. If you played a Salamangreat deck without Hand Traps, you wouldn't really be able to do much. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could be wrong, but I'm just sharing my opinion. But it doesn't take away the fact that Salamangreats, Lord Jesus Christ, have way too many tops under their belt. I mean, literally, their structure deck just came out this year, and this year has been a really long ride for Salamangreats. I mean, dude, I can't deny that this deck is just, its representation is ridiculous. I mean, it was the most represented deck at Worlds. It won Worlds. So I'm not taking anything away from it. I did share my thoughts that I feel like it's just so boring. I don't like easy. That's why I don't like Trick Stars. You know, I just don't like easy. But it's free, you know, if you're, you know, budget player and you don't like difficult combo decks and you just don't have the mental capacity for that, play Salamangreats. Super simple, super easy, super cheesy. Play a billion Hand Traps. Hope to God that your Hand Traps work. And if, you know, you don't have Hand Traps, I don't know what you're doing. So next up, for number 4, we have Thunder. Now, when I say Thunder, I'm referring to Pure, Crusadia, Danger Thunder, all the Thunder Dragon variants, all of them in one. As a whole, Thunder is just a really good deck. It's tried and true. It's proven itself over and over and over and over and over again. It's won YCSs. It won Nationals. It's a really powerful deck. It's one of the scariest combo decks. Some people even say it's more powerful and has a higher ceiling than Pendulum. Now, opinions and statistics may vary and all that, but there's a reason why Thunder is so powerful. Its mechanic is really interesting. The fact that you can just freely summon Colossuses and freely summon Titans and get really insane cascading advantage, and resolving a Thunder Dragon fusion just gives you a really powerful follow-up. The fact that if your opponent even tries to touch these monsters, you can start banishing cards like Dark and Dragon and Roar and you know, the egg, and just start getting even more advantage and just start like snowballing out of control. And it's really crazy good going second. I did not think this deck was as good going second. Pure Thunder, and that's because also it's able to main deck Hand Traps. That's something that, you know, the combo variants of Thunder can't do, but the combo variants of Thunder are also really good going second because of cards like Levianeer and all of their extenders, like their Dangers and the Nightmare cards, and their explosive like output is ridiculous. So this deck is number 4 for so many different reasons. Like I said, tried and true. But these next three decks not only are so good against this deck and can put it to shame, but also their ceiling's higher. They lose to less Hand Traps and they're less susceptible to the cards that this deck automatically loses to. So we're moving up to number 3, and in number 3 we have Orcust, and all variants included. Orcust as a pure deck, I think is probably the best Orcust variant. Orcust pure. It's the most consistent, it's really powerful, but it doesn't take away from anybody that's just splashing a couple Orcust cards in their deck just to make it better. I would never deny that that's a good thing to do. It's a great meta call because Orcust are just that deck. I would say they probably just deserve number 1 because they can make the number 1 deck like number 0. Like, they're just so good. I mean, Orcust are insane going first. They're insane going second. Their recovery is stronger than Salamangreat's. It's so much stronger. Their recursion is so much stronger than Salamangreat's. And the reason why is because Salamangreat's recursion only really happens or can occur if they have a link monster up, denying sunlight, or if they have a Salamangreat in general. So if you break their board and leave them with nothing on field, you can't activate Spinny until you get a Salamangreat on field. You can't activate Jack Jaguar. You can't activate Falco and Grave. You can't use those graveyard recursion cards like Sea Archiver and all that until you get your link monster back on field. With Orcust, their recursion, they don't care. You don't need anything on field. You've got Orcust Crescendo, you've got Skeleton, and you've got Dean Gearsu. All 3 of those cards recur your resources over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And they recycle their engine with Galatea, Long Gearsu, and Orcustron, which nobody plays, but I do because I love the card. And Orcustron, I mean, we could talk about that. Skill Drain on legs, Spell Speed 2, Permanent Negation, 0 attack, 0 defense. Your cards are literally Blue Eyes with no attack. This deck is insane. This is the deck to beat right now. This deck absolutely could, and some people would argue to say, it should be number 1. It absolutely deserves that spot. Orcust, with Summon Sword being banned, and Rusty Bardish being banned, this deck is still that good? Are you kidding me? This watered down shell of a former self deck is still that good. You have got to be kidding me. Orcust are tearing it up. Like, they're ripping booty holes open, bro. Like, they're just so good. Oh my gosh. Like, I love this deck. This is my 3rd favorite deck of all time. I love Orcust to death. They are so good. So good. Crescendo, Babel, Einsets, cards that you might not even play, like Einsets in return. Really, really good spells and traps. Really insane grind game. This deck can play a combo variant or a control variant. Now, some of these decks, you can't play combo Draco. You can't play combo Guru. But you can play a combo variant or a control variant of Orcust. So you have a variety, and then you can play it in any deck. It makes it so incredible. Orcust are really redundant. They are so good. They take number 3 hands down. And in number 2, this might hurt somebody's feeling, but I gave it to Sky Strikers. Now, the number 1 is obvious for a reason, and it's tried and true as well. And it's been around longer than Strikers, longer than Orcust, longer than Thunder, and longer than Salamangreat. So number 1 out of the top 5 has been tried and true for years and years and years. Sky Strikers. I don't need to talk too much about this deck. Honestly, people are tired of talking about it. We know what this deck is capable of doing, but I will say this. The reason why Sky Strikers are where they are, and the reason why I feel that they are very admirable, this is one of the fairest decks you will ever see of all time. Now, people can incorporate unfair cards like Evenly Matched and Mystic Mine, but that doesn't detour or change the fact that Sky Strikers, like Salamangreats, are just a very, very fair meta deck. That's what just makes them even better, the fact that they are so fair, but yet they can just destroy the degenerate decks, the degenerate combo decks. They are so capable of going second, so capable of going first. It doesn't matter if you win or lose the dice roll. It doesn't matter. And when I say it doesn't matter, this deck does not care. It's probably the most versatile at going first or second than any other deck in this top 5, in this top 10 period. Sky Striker, you can play hardcore going second, hardcore going first, or you can play a mixture of both and throw in some going second cards like, you know, Mystic Minds and Evenly, and still have your going first cards like there can only be ones. You could do that. I mean, this deck has the spot removal of Afterburners, Jamming Waves, Widow Anchor, and Shark Cannon. The most ironic part about this is oftentimes the deck beats you with your monsters. That's what's the beauty of it. Everything that the deck doesn't have, it can take from you by force. It will take it from you, and it won't ask permission. So Sky Strikers definitely deserve number 2. Everything people have thrown at Strikers in the past and over and over and over, this deck has been through so much turbulence. I mean, dude, people were like, oh, I got Imperial Order, I got, you know, Naturia Beast, and for some reason, Sky Strikers always find a way. They always find a way. They always find a way. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have a side deck of 15 cards to counter Sky Strikers. This deck will always find a way. It's so good. The 1-card combo, 1 engage, You can never see another engage for the rest of the duel, and that one engage will set you. I mean, one engage gets you access to Kagari, get the gate engage back, gets you access to multi-roll. It's a Shizuku. Shizuku searching another copy of engage if you just want to set that engage off multi-roll. One engage gets you that much advantage. Widow Anchor is a really good card. I mean, multi-roll is stupid good. Area Zero is a really decent card too. Ray is so insane, especially going second. She's gonna bait 2 negates. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to negate Hayate because you don't want Hayate to get that. Or you can wait, and then they'll just Hayate resolves. Kagari effect. You don't want them to get that engaged. You know you want to negate it, bro. Ray effect engrave. You know you have to negate that, bro. You just lost 2 negates off of 1 Ray. This deck is good, man. Number 2. And then number 1, while some people may not agree, I have to give it to Pendulums. Why? Because not only are they the most powerful combo deck, Pendulums have been around for the longest time of all these 5 decks. In fact, Pendulums have been around, I'd say, longer than Nekroz, because I think the first, or just around the same time. So, like, you got, like, Noids, like, Noids and Nekroz and, like, Dracos are probably the oldest decks on this list. But no, Cyber Dragons are obviously the oldest of all time. But, like, Pendulums, and I mean all variants included, the Endymion, the Zephyras, the Magicians, you know, like any kind of Pendulum variant, even Metaphos, even Odd Eyes, you know, even Dynamis, any kind of Pendulum variant. The Pendulum mechanic, if you guys did not know, fun fact, do you want to know why we're in Master Rule 4 right now? Because of Pendulums. Master Rule 4 was introduced as a way to deter and weaken the mechanic of Pendulum. That's why you are no longer allowed to Pendulum Summon 5, and we went into this format, Link format, Master Rule 4, because of Pendulum, and they're still the best deck. They've been slaughtered on the ban list multiple times. Once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. Slaughtered. Got the axe, the hammer, dropped on them. Took away their best cards. Still found a way. Tried and true, right? Tried and true. It's literally like a diamond in the rough. I mean, this deck went through the heat and the pressure and came out a beautiful jewel. And right now, with access to cards like Servant and Mythical Beast and Jackal King, this deck plays around hand traps. It has a countermeasure for the promos. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of the combo decks here can play through those promos, but there is no better deck, no better combo variant, period, that has that kind of potential and that kind of strength. Their toolbox is immense and expansive. Every Pendulum monster that you can play in this deck has multiples effects. They have spell effects and they have monster effects. I mean, dude, you get so much value and advantage off of 1 card. It's really insane. This deck is so powerful, and it's tried and true. It's proven itself. Look at all the tops it's gotten. Like, literally, ever since the Endymion structure deck came out, Pendulum's had a massive resurgence in popularity. I can sit here and talk about how good it is going first, how it can really put up a you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh board. But I also will say, a fun note, while people think some combo decks can't go second, boy, oh my goodness, this deck has probably one of the strongest going second games of all combo decks, just period. It has so many powerful cards that just have to be negated. You just have to negate it. You don't have a choice. You can't let Pendulum Call resolve. Pendulum Call, pitch Darkworm, negate it. Darkworm effect. You have to negate so many of these cards, or you lose. It has like bombshells, like Dinosaurs, where it's just this nuclear bomb after bomb after bomb. Having access to the Guard Dragon engine, being able to just do so many different things, and the variety of Pendulum variants. You can even play Orcust in this deck. I'm an advocate of that. This deck is the best deck of the format, period. It is absolutely the best deck. You can play a slower variant, you can play a control variant like Pure Zephyra or Pure Endymion, and you can put up boards with still 3 to 4 negations and play conservative and have access to that grind game and not vomit out your whole extra deck. Or you could go hard or go home and just play a pure gas